Hello, my name is Greg Egan, and I'm a social worker with the Australian Association of Social Workers. Having worked in the field since the late 1990s, I'm experienced in a lot of different industries. But today I would like to talk about 10 tips for dealing with gaslighting. So let's get into it. So first, I'm going to be giving you a definition of what gaslighting is, and then I'm going to start getting into some tips that can help you deal with gaslighting. So the first thing, let's define it. Gaslighting is a harmful form of psychological manipulation, usually used as a way to manipulate, control another person. It's designed to erode their victim's confidence by leading them to constantly doubt their own sanity, memory, intelligence, self-worth, even gradually erode your self-confidence. They may use trickery like moving objects, denying things exist, or denying things were said, done, as a way to foster paranoia and self-doubt in their actual victim. And it's often a conscious, learned strategy used to control, manipulate, and weaken the other person over time. And narcissistic abusers, domestic violence abusers, generally abusive partners often use this as a technique. So the first technique I'm going to actually suggest to you, or tip, is educate yourself. You want to educate yourself on what gaslighting is and how it is used, to determine if what your partner is actually engaging in is gaslighting behaviors, and to understand the tactics and manipulation techniques that are used by gaslighters. And also do readings on topics such as signs you're a victim of domestic violence or domestic abuse, signs your partner is a narcissist, or looking up websites on domestic violence, narcissism, and gaslighting, as these topics may also give examples on what gaslighting is and how it is used by perpetrators to help educate you on this topic. Second, trust your instincts. Recognize and trust your feelings and perceptions. Gaslighters often try to make you doubt yourself, but your instincts are valuable and valid. That's what I want to tell you. Example, I was a social worker and knew what domestic violence looked like and its impacts, and knew what abusive relationships look like, but kept second guessing myself or making excuses for my partner's behaviors. And even at times accepting their telling me that all their abusive behaviors were my fault, which was not the case, I realized later. And also later found out she had been abusive to her first partner, who she used to get a visa into Australia. But I second guessed my own internal instincts, telling me I was in an unhealthy relationship, and ignored, and I just realized a spelling mistake, ignored my professional training, maybe because I hoped there was potential for change. Being a social worker, maybe I could facilitate positive change. All she did was learn my social work skills, though, and knowledge, and use them against me to manipulate and abuse me further. So I learned that it's a conscious choice. When a person is gaslighting you, they are using it as a weapon against you. So trust your experience, trust your instincts, because they're the things they're going to try and shut down on you. 3, maintain support systems. Surround yourself, and sorry about this. So surround yourself with supportive network of friends, family, or professionals who can provide validation, empathy, and perspective. Having people who believe in you and support you is crucial. It's important to maintain your social networks, family and professional services. Tell them what is happening, so that you can validate your experiences when gaslighter tries to manipulate you and make you question your own reality. That's why number 3 is so important. Maintain your support systems. An example, some of my managers at work and workmates, as well as friends and family, all knew what was happening to me because I was talking to them about the dynamics of the relationship and disclosing incidents. And the stress from the abuse I was suffering was impacting on my work. And that's the reason why I had to disclose to them about some of the behaviors my partner was exhibiting at the time. And so I was able to successfully challenge some of the stuff that was being said to me and my recollections of events because I did have this support system around me. And I was also able to successfully leave the abusive relationship without returning in my last attempt due to the support I had received from family and friends and my workmates. If it was not for my family and friends and workmates, I would still be in that abusive relationship today. They also helped me validate my experiences when she tried to gaslight me, reminding me what I'd spoken to them about in the past. That's why support systems are so important, because you need that network around you that understands what's going on. So when the gaslighter tries to gaslight you, you're able to then go, well, no, that didn't happen because my friends and family are aware of exactly what did happen. Number 4, keep a journal. And the reason I say this is document incidents of gaslighting, including specific incidents and conversations. This may help you maintain an objective record and provides evidence if needed. You do this because they will question your memory. They will make up details. They will deny what they did or said, and maybe even blame you instead for what they did or said. And so in keeping a journal, it's a way of validating your experiences, but also being able to challenge them when they do try to gaslight you. Example, I used to email myself incidents that had happened as I started to pick up on a pattern of this behavior in my past abusive relationship, and also used it as a way to help me debrief on what was happening and write letters to my children in case something happened to me, because I was concerned about the behaviors being exhibited towards me. This helped me validate my experiences when they were challenged. This also, on a side note, helps in collecting evidence of abuse if needed later for the court system, whether it's taking apprehended violence orders, whether it's police charges, or whether it's family court or other sorts of courts. So keeping a journal is very handy, but I sometimes suggest to people, create an email address your abusive partner doesn't know about, and just email yourself events, because that way you're collecting those records and you've also date and time stamped it. 5, set boundaries. And this is extremely important because if you have clear boundaries in place, they're less likely to be able to gaslight you. So establish clear boundaries and communicate them assertively. Let the gaslighter know what behavior is unacceptable, and be prepared to enforce the consequences if they continue to cross your boundaries in a safe manner. Just understand they may try and deny the behaviors ever occurred, or divert the conversation, or make you believe you've done one of these behaviors or issues, which they have done. If you do not set clear boundaries, a gaslighter will slowly strip away all your healthy boundaries, one by one, as it's about power and control for them. Consider emotional, physical, mental, social, spiritual boundaries. Example, not tolerating physical or verbal abuse, not taking emotional responsibilities responsibility for the other person's behaviors, not allowing someone to control you who you can see. For example, my ex used to dominate me and control me so I couldn't see my daughter, so I couldn't see my family, because she just didn't want them involved because they were support networks. Even cut me off with some friends, banning me from seeing friends. There were other control dynamics there. So I had to, but at the time I was pretty weak emotionally and I didn't set those boundaries. If I'd set those boundaries right from the beginning and I'd been clear and strong in them, then maybe I wouldn't have went down the psychological path I did and experienced the trauma I did. That's why I'm saying set these boundaries right from the beginning. Because if you're in an abusive relationship or they're gaslighting you or not a lot, then they're more likely to pull away from that relationship because you're someone that can't be controlled or dominated. 6, practice self-care. Prioritize self-care and prioritize your well-being. Engaging in activities that bring you joy, reduce stress, and promote emotional and physical well-being. Generally, in relationship counselling, I say to couples that you should look at each other's individual needs, couple needs, family needs around self-care, and see how you can make them work as a team so that you can be able to take care of each other. But in an abusive relationship and an unhealthy relationship, Usually the abuser doesn't want you to maintain your self-care strategies, because if you do, you're building resilience, you're building strength, and that's a risk to a gaslighter or a domestic abuser. So self-care is important, whether you are in an abusive relationship or not, as you want to be focusing on your overall physical and psychological well-being, regardless, to help cope with day-to-day stresses. But it's even more important when you are in a stressful situation, such as abusive relationships or being gaslit. A gaslighter may try to reduce your self-care practices, as I mentioned before, as they generally want you to have lower resilience, because when you have lower resilience and your stress management techniques are out the window, then you're easier to manipulate because you're under stress. Number 7, seek professional help. Consider seeking therapy or counselling to help you navigate the gaslighting situation. A mental health professional can not only educate you on what gaslighting is and what abuse is, but can provide you guidance, support, and strategies for coping and healing. And this can be hard, especially while you're still in the relationship. Now, example is, I did seek help from a counsellor to begin with during the relationship when I was at my lowest point, when I'd been sort of like abused right to the point where I thought life was not worth living. I did see a counsellor. Unfortunately, there was no connection there with that counsellor, and that was not a match, so I didn't go back. And then I attended relationship counsellor with my partner, my abusive partner at the time. But her thing was telling the counsellor to fix me, that I was the problem. She was projecting all her behaviours onto me in a way. She was basically gaslighting me to the counsellor, saying that I was the problem, I needed to be fixed. And whenever the counsellor tried to, or I tried to challenge her on her behaviours, she used diversion techniques, distraction techniques, trying to change the topic and take it down a different pathway. And so that was like several sessions of just wasted counselling. But after I left the relationship, I did eventually connect with a really good victims of crime counsellor in New South Wales, Australia. And that helped me with my recovery post-separation. So don't give up on seeking help when you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship. You want to be seeking help, whether it be from hotlines, whether it be from a face-to-face therapist, whether it be from services. Seek some help when you're in one of these abusive type style relationships, because that's going to help you decide on the actions to take. 8, maintain your sense of self. Gaslighters often try to erode your sense of self and identity. Stay connected to your values, interests, morals, passions, all that sort of thing. Engage in activities that affirm your sense of self and promote your personal growth, whether it be the personal activities, passions, life goals you're engaging in, or whether it be the career you're engaging in. For example, my ex-wife slowly tore down my sense of self by making me focus on all her needs and devaluing my needs as not important, whether it was about family or career. Unless it was meeting her needs or her self-interest, she was not interested in hearing about it and shutting me down. I can tell you, unless you assert your needs, your abusive partner or gaslighter will make everything about them. And then when you try to assert your sense of self, they're going to argue that you're not letting them do the same. It's about balance in a relationship. It's not about power and control. You both should be supporting each other to grow. You both should be supporting each other to maintain a sense of self-identity. And if one person's trying to cut that off from you and destroy your sense of self, then you know it's not healthy. 9, keep a reality check. And what I mean by that is seek outside perspectives and alternate source of information to counteract the gaslighters' distortions, because they're going to distort your sense of reality. They're going to make you believe that what you've seen, what you've heard, all that sort of stuff is false. So consult with your trusted friends, your family, or professionals who can provide you with objective viewpoints. Look at the situation from an outside perspective, because you want to challenge that narrative which the gaslighters put in your head. And the only way to do that is to seek evidence against it. Example, before you meet this gaslighter, you had a history. You potentially had friends, family, workmates that know who you are and the type of person you are. So use this information to counteract the gaslighter and their behaviors. Use your past experiences on your own sense of identity, your own sense of self, knowing your behaviors and all that sort of stuff and who you are generally to challenge the narrative that the gaslighter is creating. 10, consider your options when you're in a relationship with a gaslighter. Evaluate the impact of gaslighting on your overall well-being and the health of the relationship. In some cases, it may be necessary to distance yourself or end the relationship for your own mental health and emotional health, and even physical health sometimes. And so think about that carefully, whether staying in this relationship long-term is going to be healthy for you. And this process can be a difficult decision to work through, especially if there is children involved or large sums of money involved, as a gaslighter could use the child or children as a weapon, like in my own personal case, to maximize their own gain from the separation. The children become part of the gaslighter's tools, whether it's about revenge, whether it's about financial control, whether it's just about psychological manipulation. So remember that. And in conclusion, remember that gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse. It's essential to prioritize your well-being and safety. If you're in a toxic or abusive situation, seek help and consider reaching out to Helplines or support organizations that specialize in domestic abuse and emotional manipulation or narcissism, etc., or domestic violence, or even your family to see what assistance they may be able to provide, or your friends and your work colleagues. Seek help when you feel like you're at the receiving end of a gaslighter. Anyway, thank you for listening. And if you like these sort of videos, hit like, please subscribe and comment below if you have any questions around gaslighting, or even if you want to talk about your own experiences on gaslighting and share them on this channel. Okay, thank you for listening.